last time we give you introductions about distributed system, and we say that distributed systems, we should have multiple computers, and those computers are completely independent, but they connect in a network by interconnect. And after that, also we discussed that we have to find a way to a program or a programming library to make those processors or computer to connect with one another. And we say that the distributed system is, just like most of the computer clusters, high performance computer clusters, consist of different nodes, and each node will have multiple processors. And so when we are using that architecture, then we need to use MPI, or message passing interface. And this is, by the way, a very powerful library. And if you use any high performance computing system, you will definitely you will use it, especially if you have very large scientific computing problems. Okay, so this is something that we're going to face if you are using computers. And so last time we discussed that in such an architecture that we have a computer clusters, and inside the computer clusters we have different nodes, and inside nodes we have different CPUs, and of course each CPU also may have different threads as well. So we say that if we need to do any parallel programming in such an architecture, that we need to use MPI. And the first thing to do in MPI, we need to include, of course, we need to include directive write, include MPI .h. So this is the header file, and this header file includes all the library, and you have to include it. So you will be able to use the different functions that associated with MPI. And I also will say that after that we can use in the main function of the C or C++. It should be in this way: integer main, and here we have declared two parameters. The first one argc, and we know argc this keeps the number of parameters that will be passed through the main function, and the second one is characters, and double asterisk for double pointers, and then the variable name argv. Okay, so this the main program, and we say that also we have two functions, and those functions are there's one function. Once you use that function, then you parallelize everything. You parallelize you will parallelize everything on the program. So the first function is MPI init, and here we have to use the address of the variable that passed on the main function argc, and also we pass arg the pointer, the memory address of argv, and don't forget the semicolon. And when we need to finalize the program, then we need to use MPI finalize. and don't forget the semicolon. So after that, any code here, if you put any code in between those two, it will be executed in all processes that we will determine during the runtime. Okay, because this is why we use this to argument, because when you compile and execute the program, then we need to provide the number of processors. The number of processors will be passed from here to here. So we'll have the number of processors, and accordingly we will create what we call a communicators. The number of processors, if you decide to use, like for example, 5 processor, then you will create what we call it global communicator, which is MP-ICOM word. This is the default one, and by the way, you can create your own as well. You can customize it, but in most cases, you are using these global communicators. This global communicator, if you determine to use 5, if you determine to use, for example, 5 processor, then each processor will be given a number. Okay, so this is the processors are 5, and each of these 5 will be given numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we say this rank, so they will give like rank or ID number. And by the way, we can use this rank number or ID number in computing, because those are just like a team or workers. And based on your scientific problem, then you can use these workers in a specific way to do to solve your to do computing. Okay, so this is the idea behind that. And so last time we gave you some codes, and I hope you use our platform to practice. So now if you have already, we know that we created communicators. We have different processors. Okay, assume that we have like different processors, and each processor will run the same program, and we need this program to communicate. Then we will use what we call communication system, and there is 2 kinds of communication: point-to-point communication and collective communications. In case of point-to-point communicator, only 2 processors will communicate with each other. So one will send a message, and the second one will receive. So the communication will be between 2. In case of collective communicator, one of these there are several ways of collective communication, and we will come and discuss each of these one. But today we will talk specifically about today we will talk about point-to-point communication. Okay. You can see my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So the point-to-point communicators that we said that we have. In the global communicators, we may have several, or we have multiple processors. Okay, and those processors are ranked from 0 to 0, 1, 2, and 3, and so on. Okay. So we said that there are two kind of communications. One is point-to-point communication, and the second one is collective communication. And today we will talk about point-to-point communication. And in case of point-to-point communication, the communication will be between two processors. It will be between two processors. One processor or one CPU will send a message, and the second CPU will receive that message. Okay, so they involve message passing between two and only two different MPI process. One send a message, and the second one receive it. Okay. There are two kind of point-to-point communication. One is blocking communication, and the second one is non-blocking communication. And from the name, it's very clear, like, when you're using blocking communication, that you will block any transaction or a sending during that time until the process has been completed. In case of non-blocking, there will be no block for the execution. Okay. Here we are using two functions, and from now we'll begin, like every time or any lecture will give you new function, and fortunately, we don't have many functions. So if you just remember, this function, that would be very good, for you if you want to use MPI in any computers. Okay. So if we need to send, in case of blocking communications, if you need, we'll use MPI send to send a message, okay, from a processor and to be received by the destination processor. We will use MPI receive. Okay, so we have two functions, MPI send and the second one MPI receive, and we will show you example on how to use this one. In case of non-blocking, we'll use MPI I send and MPI I receive. But before that, we have to think, because once you send a message from message is a data, right? It is a data. So when we send a data from a CPU to another CPU, this data has a specific data type. So data type is very important, and we say that from the beginning, and we give you the data types in C and C++. Here in MPI, we have predefined data type, okay, like MPI int for integers, MPI float for floating point, MPI double, MPI char, and MPI byte, and so on. So these are the data types that we are using when we send or when we receive a message. We don't use the primitive data type already we use in C or in C++. Okay, here we are using, so when we send any data, then we need to identify, to define that, to define the data type of that data that we will send, and but whenever we use data type, we will use one of those one. Okay, so we don't use int like we use in C and C++, but we have used MPI int. For float, we use MPI float. Okay, this is something that you put in mind. And so because this is point to point communications, that communication between two processors, and as I said, we have two functions. One is MPI send, and the second one is MPI receive. So each one of these, they have syntax, and so you need to understand this syntax and the order of of these is important, because in this syntax we will have it is a function, and it includes all the parameters that we have to provide to send. So we will let a processor to send a message from from it to another processes. And for an MPI, we have to include a pointer. So the first parameter is a pointer. We call it buffer or buff b, and this should be a pointer. So that means this is the pointers in which we store the data that we need to send. Okay, so in that processor, we said in distributed architectures, the computers are completely independent. Each computer with its memory. So here we have to create, first we have to create a buffer, a pointers, and in that pointer we have to include the data that we need to send to the second processor. Okay. Then we have to identify the data type. And in data type, here it's integer, but when we use it, we will use the predefined MPI data types. Okay, that it should be one of these. Okay, so we're not going to use int, but here we're showing you that the kind of data type we are using. And why? Because this is the size, and by the size here we mean the number of elements. If you are sending one element, for example, if you have a single number integer, then the number of elements here is a single, 1. If it is float, also is 1. So that means the number of primitive data type already we discussed in C and C++. So any one of them will be single. But if you use a one-dimension array, then the number of elements will be the number of the number of elements will be the number of elements of that array. If it is matrix, then also will be the number of elements in that matrix. So this, if we want to send any data from computer to another computer, we have to tell. So this one we should include here in this function as a parameters. We should include the number of elements that we need to send. So if it is like one number or multiple number, we have to identify the number. Okay, exactly. So I'm sorry actually about this here. We are integer the number of element here. Just what I'm mentioning is the number of element. The number of element. If it is 1, it would be 1. If it is 2, it will be 2. That depends on the number of elements that we will send. The third parameter is data type, MPI data types, and this is the predefined data types. Okay, because if you are sending integer, then it will be MPI underscore int. If float, it will be MPI underscore float, and so on. So we have to mention it. If it is in, we are sending a single number, or we are sending one dimension array or multiple dimension array, we have also to pass as a parameter the data type that the element, the data type of the element. Okay. So after that, int this for destination computer. So the computer that it will receive the data or the message that it will be sent by this processor. Okay, because it says that two computers, one is sending, second one is receiving. So here we have to identify the rank, because we say that once we identify the number of processors in the runtime, then we will create what we call it global communicators. And in this global communicator, the processors that will be used in our computing will be given rank number from 0. So if it's 5, so it will be from 0 to 4 and so on. So here you need to determine, because you need to communicate between two computers, then you need to identify the computer that to which you want to send that data or message. Okay, so this and we will give it the rank number. This can be 1, 2, 3, and so on. So it depends on which rank you want to choose. Then for tag, this includes like any numbers and this is like optional. You can use it, especially if you are using multiple messages. Okay, maybe I want to send like 5 different messages or different data to maybe to a different processors, maybe to the same processors. Then if I give them tags, so this tag would be, we can use these tags to receive that, and also to use it in a specific kind of computing. So tag, it will give us more control. So you can include a number, just to show this message is, for example, number 1. So it's 1, or number 2, or number 3, or so on. Okay, so it is integer, it is a number, and that number, it will, because you can use it for your own purpose to identify that data. Okay, because it's just like I'm sending you 5 different data in 5 different sending processes, and each one I'm going to give a tag to that message. So beginning, so it will be tag number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and so on. So this, and we will have some example. We'll show you how to use that. And finally, we have to use the global communicators. And we say that we have a predefined global communicator, which is MPI underscore com underscore word, and we call this global communicator. And this, once we determine during the runtime, we determine the number of processors, this will be created. And this include all processors that will be participating on the communication. Okay, if you determine 5 processors, then it will be 5 ranked from 0 to 4. If 10, it will be ranked from 0 to 9, and all of them, this will be included in the communication. So here you have to tell in the send MPI send function. Also, you have to include this. You have to include MPI underscore com underscore word, and so on. So this how. But also you can use what we call it wildcard. Okay, and wildcard, if you are using like Linux or MS Command, you will understand what wildcard is. Wildcard, it just represents, like, you can use it for anything. So here the wildcard is MPI underscore any underscore tag. Okay, so that means if you want to use some wildcard for tag, then you can use this, and it will be just like anyone, and so on. So this for receive, so this is the syntax of send, and you see it's not different. It includes the data that we need to send, and also it includes the size of data, like how many elements will be included on that package, and the data type of the data that we send, and destination, the computers to which we want to send that data, and tag, just for like, just tag to identify that message. And also we have to include the global communicator. The MPI receive is just similar with few different. Also, it should include the area which will receive. So this is the data that is where once it receives that data, it will locate it on its own memory, because the 2 computers are completely independent, each one with its own memory. So once it receives, because the message, it will be sent to a specific processor identified by the rack number. By the rack number that it goes, the rank number here is just like address. So the mailman, when put like envelopes, it will put it in your mailbox. So this is the same thing, okay? And to put it on your mailbox, of course, you should have address, right? So the rank number here is an address, and all of them in the same communicator, that means in the same global communicator. So once the second computer receives that, it will create, that there will be a pointer. Pointer already we will declare it. Before that, we will as we will see that in an example. So it will store this where the data will be stored. Also, we have the buffer size, that means the number of elements it will be received. So just to allocate area for that. If it's one element, it will allocate area for in the memory for a single element. If it's multiple element, also it should take care of that, right? So after that, also we have to use MPI data type. It can be integers like MPI int, if it is integer or float, and so on. Also, this is very important because you need to create the same environment to store the message, that data exactly without to change. Okay, so this one reason. And the source. Okay, this is the source. Also, this is the rank from which it will receive that letter. Because if you have communicator, and just imagine, stuff like, we are using the cell phone and it is in a network. And so when we call somebody, this point-to-point communications, and just imagine that how many people they communicate at the same time, but they talk to different people. This is the same thing here. So here you must know the processor of the computer from which that we need to, you will receive that data. So also you have to include the rank here as well. It's same like the way we are using in cell phones. There will be your phone number and your destination number, okay, and so on. And also we have to tag, and this is the integer as we defined, because this is the tags that would be sent with the message. So this is not the tag that you create, but this is the tag that will be sent with the source when send a message. If there is a tag, then it will also receive that tag, because you may put some constraint or condition in the receiving that message, and we'll come and show you some example on how to use this tag. And also you use the global communicators. That means the sender and receiver, both of them in the same communication. And finally, we are using what we call it MPI status. And MPI status is this struct or structures, data structures. And we in the unit of data structures, we talk about data structures, and we talked also about class, and we show you how to create a class. And I told you that if you want to create data structures in C and C++, there are different ways to do that. One of them is struct. I didn't give you struct, okay, but it is very simple, and now I show you how it is. But in MPI status, this is struct, that means data structures. And the purpose of this data structures here, you have to identify a pointer you have to declare a pointer as a variable, and then you use MPI status, and then you provide that pointer. So on that pointer or on that variable, the data will be stored there, and later on you can access that data. So what this data include? So this data, it tells you whether your the message received, if there is any error or not. Okay, so this is the purpose behind this, and here we'll show you how MPI. Okay, so we come to this. This is how it structures. But let us, before we go to okay, so let's to discuss about the structure phase, because also this kind of information that you will include, because once you provide the structure variable, okay, so this is how the struct is created. And even if you want to create your own data set, data structures using struct, you are using this syntax. So struct MPI, and then it's called status. This is just the name of the data structures. And after that, you can use primitive data type like int. This is the kind of information that we need to store them here. So we'll store the MPI source. This is the computer from which we receive, or that processor received the data. And the MPI tag, the tag that sent is coming with that letter. And if there is any error, also it will be there. So if you have data structure like that, I'm sure you know how to access each of these variables, right? So because this point, because this is object-oriented programming language, and so you create an object, and from the object, if you want to access any of these variables, then you can use dot notation. Is that correct? So you can use the variable name or the object name dot MPI source. Then you will get the source information. MPI tag will get the tag information. If you want to know if there is any error in receiving that message or data, then you will use the object dot MPI underscore error. Okay, I will show you some example of regarding that. So so now I'm going to give you example about how to practical example. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Professor.
Okay. Okay. So now we say that if this just like the header file input output stream. This time we use input output stream, and when you we use input output stream, then you have to think about the standard namespace, right? If you didn't use it, then we have to use resolution, scope resolution like here, okay, for C out and C in and so on. And then we have this header file, and this for the MPI. And in the main function, we use two variables, argc and argv, and then we pass them here as memory address. And we say that last time also we discussed two functions. One function is to tell you if you want to print, like how many processors in the communicator. Then we use this function MPI underscore com underscore size, and we will provide it with the global communicator and a variable address. And this variable address, because this is integer, we have to declare it here. So when we use this function, it populate or it fill, it assign a value, the number of processor to this variable. So when you print word size, after you run this function, then you will print the number of processor. And the same thing also here. If you want to know the rank of any processor in the global communicator, also you will use MPI underscore com underscore rank. And also you have to provide the global communicator and the address of the variable, and this variable also you should declare it here as integer because it's integer. So when you run this function, it will populate or it will assign value to this variable. So when you print this variable, it will give you the rank. And also we say that once we use MPI underscore init, that means this is the beginning of parallel. That means all this from here and on until MPI finalize, those code will be executed on all processors, because the model, the programming model itself is a single program or single instruction and multiple data. Okay, this is something that we know. Okay, but inside that program, you can create very complex program by very complex program that you can use if state, and you can use loop, and you can use all the programming aspects that you have already learned. Okay, so if you want to control which data go to which processor, you can use if and rank, as we said here. So this here we here not just to determine the size, the number of processors in the global communicator, and here the rank. So each processor runs this code. It will assign a rank to this variable, and also it will create float data. It will create like a data variable, and here if the rank is equal to 0, and this is very important, this is how to control the data, okay, because those code will be executed on all processors. But if we use if statement, then we can control, we can let any processor to do a specific job, okay? Because already we know if we assign 5 processors, then we know that we have 5 processors and their rank from 0 to 4. Okay, so in this case, we can use if statement to let rank number 0 to do a specific kind of computing. Processor 2, 1 do a specific kind of computing, and so on. So it's just like you have multiple workers, and you can give this worker, each one of these workers, you can give him or her a specific task. So this is the same thing, okay? And of course, this depends on your programming logic. This is something that, as we said, just here we show you how to program using these libraries, but when you come and solve your own problems, that you have to know the logic of your program or the algorithm, that how you solve that problem, okay? So that means if and only if the rank number is 0, and we call this is a master rank, then assign this number data. We needed to data we have already declared here, and by the way, by declaring this, each processor will declare a variable, and we call it data. But in the rank in 0, in this processor, it will assign data is equal to 99. Okay. Again, if this processor, its rank is 0, then we want in this time we want him to send that number. So data is already declared here, and if you see here, we provide it as address. Okay, we didn't give it as just as a variable, and this is why actually in when we studied C++, we focused on pointers, because in parallel computing, most of the time we are using pointers. Okay, most of the time we are using pointers and memory address. So why here you have to provide this? That means this 99, because it is stored in processor or computer 0, then we need to send it. This is the number of element. It is 1 because it is single number. Data type, it is MPI in it because it's integer. And this, we want to send it to the destination. That means the computer with the rank 1. And the tag is just 0, and then the global communicators. And then the processor 0 also can, just type, print this, pro 0, send the data to processor 1. Just to tell you that this is just like print this message that his job has been accomplished by sending this to processor 1. And processor 1, again, we will use if statement, and this time else if this computer word rank is equal to 0. If it is 0, then we need that processor to receive that data. Again, already, because this data already declared is there, because we said data declared all computers. And so this will be like a buffer. Again, the number of element is 1, and data type, and it received from 0. It received from 0. So once, because it broadcasts, and only it will go to processor number 1. Then processor number 1 also will know that it received this message from processor number 0, and this is tag. Also, it must be the same like this tag. And then the global communicators. Then here we are using the structure, the status, because this will tell us if there is any error, and it also will tell us if there is the source and tag and so on, as we discussed in the previous slides, that this data structures, and from these data structures, it is already here defined. Let me to so if you see here, we have we have to declare this. We give MPI status ignore. Now here we use MPI status ignore because we don't need to put any. Later on we'll show you that, but here we ignore the status. We don't need it. If you don't need it, then you can use this MPI status ignore. It will ignore it. Otherwise, you have to declare a variable, and you put it right here, and then it will store all that data we talk about. Okay. So now we'll go ahead, finalize, and we'll run this. So we expect that. Let's without expectation to see how to run this. So we're gonna MPI. Okay. C++. Okay, if there is no any, it's just we compile it. If there is no any error, then it doesn't show anything like that. If there is any error, just go back and try to fix it. And here we have, if we didn't use any -o file name, then the executable file will be stored by default in a.out. Okay, so now the executable file is stored right there. And what we need just to execute that one, because it's already compiled, and now we need to execute it. And to execute it, we say MPI. By the way, we can use also MPI XE, but I don't know. I like this MPI run -q, just to keep it quiet without complaint. Then we have to determine the number of processors. And by the way, here you can, if you know that depend on the how many processors that you assign, and also depend on where, because the sending point-to-point sending, it may be within, maybe you can determine many processors because you have other job to do, but you need only two to communicate with each other by using receive. Okay, so now we will go ahead. If we use 5, for example, in this code we are going to use only 2. Okay, but we'll check and see. So if you see here, process number 0 send the data to process number 1. This is just to tell us, yes, I have data, and I send it to process of the computer number 1. And when it received by computer number 1, processor 1 received. He said, actually, I'm processor 1, and I received data from processor 0. And after that, it print 0. Actually, this it printed by process number 1, and processor number 1 and not 0 on this one. So this way you can do even, this is very simple examples, and the idea to show you that you can make some kind of communications between two processors. One processor can do very complex, can store data like very big matrix or anything like that, and do also some kind of computing, and then it can send a result to the second processor, and that processor also can do some kind of computing and so on, and can also send it back or can send it to a different processor to do also. This complexity of computing programming is determined by your scientific or by computational problem, okay? So always actually I keep repeating this because when we teach this, we teach it very simple, just to understand it. But when you come and use it in the real life, you will deal with a real problems, computational problems, and in this case, so already you have the knowledge on how to, this communication can be managed, but the logic of the computer actually depends on you and depends on the algorithms that you will use. Okay, so this, all of just I want to reiterate this because this is something that we have more complicated examples we will show you. And this example, instead of sending, just and receive a single value, we will send and receive an array. Okay, so we'll go ahead because there is no any times to do this. So let me hopefully okay, so this P5 and okay, so if you see here, it's completely different because now we have a function, and this is the same function that we used last time, to add an array. But this time, actually, we need each of this processor to two processor. Processor 0 with rank 0, we want him to store this data, the array, and to send it to 1. And if you notice the number of elements here is equal to the size, and size is 5 elements. We give them here, okay? Five elements. So instead of providing a number, this time we provide a variable, and for receiving also same also number and so on. So the idea is that just like last time we used a single element, but this time we use 5 elements, and this to show you that how just if I want to be lazy, okay. So this the same thing here. We added the first one, actually what it does. Okay, so the first one, he stored this, and then he sent it to rank processor 2. Processor 2 use the function sum vect to sum it together and print it. Okay, so why we got this one? Okay, we got the value. So hopefully we have this already we talk about this about MPI, and I don't want to repeat again. This is just instructions for MPI status, and I want you to review this. This getting information from MPI status also we talk about, because we say that data structures, and if you want to get data, just you need to define a variable, then in that variable then you can access it and so on. We have MBI count, and this MBI count actually used to retrieve the number of elements of certain data type received in message. Okay, so this function also can be used, and we'll use it actually in so okay, I will depend on you to run this, okay, and to also try, to understand, this code and try to run it in the same way in Hyperion, and to understand, because here is also we define, the status and how to access this and so on. Okay. So this is all for today, and if you have, do you have any? Do you have any question or?